Hey guys, quick disclaimer before we jump into the onboard footage. My GoPro case might not have fully sealed because we got quite a bit of wind noise, unfortunately. The footage still came out all right. You'll get a good POV of what it was like to ride the RC8C around the Ridge Motorsports Park. And yeah, this was all unplanned. I met the owner halfway through this track day, and at the end of the day, convinced him to let me ride his bike. And, you know, there was no more advanced groups to ride it in, so I had to go out in the intermediate. And yeah, it was just a short, quick session. Obviously, not my bike. I didn't want to crash one of 100 of these things, these $40,000 bikes. So I took it very easy. I'm not familiar with the tires that were on it, and this thing was just basically box stock from what I understand. Obviously, it's a bike meant for the track. So yeah, here's a quick few laps of what it was like and some basic impressions. I hope to get another chance to ride one of these things. And, you know, give more feedback in the future. Awesome. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely stiff. It should be up to 10.
Alrighty. Thank you. All right, the part everybody wants to know, what was it like to ride an RC8C and how does it compare to an 890 Duke R? Now, I'm gonna try to keep this relatively short because I didn't get a whole lot of time on the bike, so I can't really dive into a bunch of specifics on everything. But, you know, for me, my biggest curiosity coming off an 890 Duke R was how would the RC8C, which shares the same engine, how would it compare with power and power delivery? And initially hopping on the bike, I noticed the mapping was quite a bit different. It was pretty soft on the bottom, and then it would just pack this punch in the mid-range. So it felt a little abrupt, but after a couple laps, I was able to, get used to it and ride the bike smoothly. But yeah, that was the first thing I noticed, because an 890 Duke R from the factory, from KTM, it is very linear, very smooth throughout the whole power band. And hopping on the RC8C, it felt more aggressive for sure. And the other thing I noticed was how much faster the bike is down the straightaways. And obviously that has a lot to do with the bike being lighter, it having a full fairing, but also the fact it has different electronics, different intake and airbox and exhaust and whatnot. So that part was impressive. Areas like straightaways where you'd be fifth, sixth gear on an 890 Duke R chasing 600s, like you would be at a noticeable disadvantage. That was not the case on the RC8C. I mean, I was right there with them and able to pass them, no problem. So I could easily say the bike had a good 10 miles an hour on an 890 Duke R, probably more. And had I got to try the bike on a track with a proper straightaway where you could really get flat out in sixth for a little bit, it would be interesting to compare the trap speeds. But I would bet you it's 10 miles an hour minimum. Now at the ridge, there's a corner, turn 9, which is this really fast right-hander up a hill. And on the 890 Duke R, I'd be in fourth gear, hitting fifth, and I could feel the bike lose a little bit of steam. Whereas the RC8C would just pull right through the gears, and I could feel the thing accelerating the whole time. And it didn't even break a sweat. So that was really cool. So yeah, for sure, the power is better, and the power delivery is a little bit different. And yeah, it was not as similar as I would have guessed. I did guess it would be a little bit quicker for sure. That part I was able to confirm. But yeah, I mean, and the sound was quite a bit different. It's quite a bit louder. So yeah, even though they share the same engine, like it was a whole different experience. I thought it'd be a lot more similar. Like I always just tried to picture what it would be like riding, with the same exact power delivery and sound. And that was not the case when I got in the RC8C. So, if it were my bike, I'd probably want to do a little bit of mapping, just to get a little bit, just to give it a little bit more on the bottom and soften that hit in the mid range. But man, such a fun bike. It was so light, so nimble, so easy to make direction changes. Just a fun bike. I mean, the closest thing I've ever rode to what a GP bike would be, and just the cornering ability the thing had and the stopping power the thing had, it was pretty wild. The suspension felt pretty good for it being out of the box, but it definitely could be improved on. I've rode a couple Kramers in the past, which Kramer developed this bike for KTM. I mean, it's basically a KTM engine stuffed into Kramer's chassis and their whole package around it with, WP suspension. So I've rode an 890 Kramer in the past, which I would say is about 90 or 95% the same as what this RC8C is. They're just packaged a little different, obviously, with the bodywork and a couple other small things. But, the other Kramers I've rode were really well set up suspension-wise, and this RC8C just straight out of the crate, it didn't feel as balanced. So that's totally fixable. I mean, everybody likes to set their bike up a certain way. Everybody weighs something different. So, yeah, like there's some personalization that is required when you get one of these bikes for sure. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. With it not being my bike, I definitely rode it very cautiously. But it'd be really cool to get back on one and throw some Dunlops on it and race it and really see what I can extract out of the bike. Cause I didn't really push on this thing, but yeah, just my general feeling on the thing is it's an amazing bike. Definitely what you would expect to get for $40,000 or whatever they cost. And, a lot of fun to ride, and a totally different twist on the 890 platform than an 890 Duke R. So, really fun experience. I want to thank Brian again for letting me ride his bike and trusting me with it. It'd been interesting had he done the KTM package deal. When the owners bought the bike, they got the option to spend a little extra and go to Europe. ride with some of the MotoGP guys and get some help from the technicians, you know, setting up the bike for them. And would have been interesting if he had gotten to do that, just to see, you know, how much further along the bike setup would have been or not. But yeah, amazing machine. I mean, just the way the thing's painted and the components on it, I mean, it is top notch. And I would love to have one of these in my garage, and I would really like to race one of these against some 600s, but I'm not sure how much of a race it would be, because I feel like this bike would crush them. So at least at the club level stuff I've been doing. I mean, a lot of you guys have seen me race the 890 Duke at the club races, and, you know, even with some local Moto America guys, like, I've almost been able to win some races, but hopping on the RC8C, it wouldn't even be fair. So it's a sweet bike. So for those that own it, congrats, you're very lucky. And the other folks, you know, you can only imagine what it's like, and it's really cool. So I'm lucky I got to try it. And yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to do more of these videos, and so let me know what you want to see next. Thank you.